What's up? What's up? It's the Arthur Moats Experience with Deke. I'm Arthur Moats, and that's my main man, Deke.
What's good, dude?
Man, first off, it is great as heck to see you, baby. You know, I missed you a little bit, man. How you been?
I'm good, bro. What's up
Hey,
with
man.
the shirt?
Well, listen, you know I was not going to travel all the way across the country and not have something to twin with my daughter. Because she said today she wanted to wear the Bill shirt. So I was like, all right, I got my Bill shirt. Okay? It wasn't my intention. Of course not.
Dude, how about, it was 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
In the Twitch stream, some dude with a username followed me. It was like Buffalo Bills fan, like 1990 or something. Everyone was like,
go.
This Moats is better following you now.
Let's go.
Glad to see you're doing good, dude. I hope they didn't change you up too much out there.
Hey, man, so far so good. They trying, but, you know, I'm going to make them work a little harder. Also, they're saying your levels are a little low. So if you could just turn your mic up a little bit, yeah, we'll be good.
Sure.
Here we go.
How about now?
Hey, man, sound good to me. Heck yeah. Like I say, the people in the chat to let us know, but either way, man, we should be good.
Okay.
All
yeah, I put
right.
mine up. So hopefully, because one says Deke's sound is low, Moats a little high, but hopefully with mine,
Yeah.
It equals.
And I'll
out.
turn mine down a little bit more. All right. And we will see how we are there.
Marlon Lynch saying it's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're good.
Sweet. Well, with that being,
him.
yeah, but say we trust him.
Saying up more. You dropped it low, so we'll give it a little bit of a delay.
Yeah. But
Sounds good
anywho,
from Stoogie McLean. All right, we're good. We got a few people saying we're good.
So let's roll it in. So with that being said, man, let us know where you are tuning in from in the chat. We'll get you those shout outs. And after that, man, we'll get this show rolling. Let's go.
Jason Hess, 814 State College. Good
There
morning,
it is.
Deke.
Top of the morning. Hey, I like it, man.
It's a good little morning show then for him.
Yeah, heck yeah, man.
Waking
Heck yeah.
up, cup of coffee, watching some Moats and Deke. Nice.
Hey, man, you can't go wrong with that, baby.
Damon Brown, 478, Macon.
There we are. I was about to say, man, don't you call this Macon again, man. Come on, bruh.
Macon, Georgia in the building.
There it is.
South Carolina, the 803.
Let's go.
Adventures with Allen, 562 Lakewood, California.
Okay.
What adventures he's going on.
I don't know, but shout out to the West Side.
Shoot the rock. Always in the house. Good morning from the
no question.
563 Du Bois, Iowa.
I like
a Zoom class, so might have to head to Mars to get through it. Yeah.
Let's go. Oh, man, enjoy it. All my researchers out there, get your research on.
You can't do any research out there.
Not at all. Not at all.
Right?
Yes. A lot of research on me. No research being acquired by me. So, yeah, no galaxy surfing over here, man. I'm over here. What do they call it? I'm an astronomer. I'm not an astronaut. You know, I'm looking up into the stars. I just can't be in the stars with everybody right now.
Everyone's just teasing you in the chat. Lamar Perry, 803 Trenton, South Carolina.
There we go.
336 Greensboro, North Carolina. You want me to just read off a few more?
Yeah, get a couple more, and after that, man, we will go ahead. Well, actually, let me get a couple real quick, because I just saw a funny one. Shout out to, first off, Alonzo Clegg, the 901 Memphis, Tennessee. Then we got Nicole Rudolph. She says, yo, checking in from the 213, sitting on the toilet. All right, well, I like it there, man. Yeah, nothing like a good morning, you know, bowel moving and things like that. We got Brandon Clark, the 540, Roanoke, Virginia. And we got Zenon Boover, I think that's how you say his last name, the 321, which is Rockledge, Florida. Shout out to Rockledge, Florida. Okay. And then I can't forget DJ Lundy, Deke. DJ Lundy is from the 757. What do we call that?
Crib.
There it is. Yes, indeed. DJ Lundy tuned in from Norfolk, the crib, a.k.a., man. Feeling the love. So, man, with that being said, bro, let's get this thing started, man. But I was going to tell you, I had a good situation happen to me while I was traveling out here, all right?
Yeah, we need a story. There's got to
be
man.
Story, right? You know, we can't start the podcast without having a story in the joint. So I'm traveling out here, you know, I get the super early in the morning flights. I'm like, you know, I don't want a lot of people around. Just want to get on easy on out here. Smooth trip. I go to Starbucks. Because, you know, Starbucks is like the perfect place to go in the mornings when you're traveling. In the airport, I had the nice thing happen, though. I'm in my antisocial mask on, headphones on vibe. this like middle-aged lady gives me a look, and I'm like, huh, she a little too old for me to be, for to be looking at me like that. But all right, what's going on here? And she says, I'm gonna pay for you. I was like, yo. But my dilemma was this. So she pays for my coffee, but I had some snacks I got as well. My question is this though, Deke. Once she paid for my coffee, I felt guilty like I was supposed to pay for the person behind me. But I didn't do it. Because at the time, the person behind me wasn't right there. And I was like, So does that, what's the protocol on that? That's what I was trying to figure out. If somebody in front of you pays for your stuff. Okay. So I'm supposed to just continue to pay. Oh, man.
Would it have been awkward? That's what you think it was? It would have been way more awkward than it would have been good. The good in you of actually paying it forward. Is that what you're saying?
I feel like it would have, because I would have been forced. I had to do the whole, all right, let me wait for this person to get all the way over here. All right, let me wait for them to order the order.
They were so far away from you.
Yeah, they were still in the line. Like, I had already walked up and it was already like getting taken care of. And they just, I don't know if they were paying attention or what, but they were definitely a little later. So, yeah. And they're still saying your mic is a little low also, bro.
Mike's a little low still?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
How about now?
Oh, hold on. That might be me. That's all right. You should be good now.
Is it? All right, yeah. I turned it up. Let me.
Because I turned you up on my end as well.
It back a little bit.
Yeah, you're good. I turned you up on my end.
About what it is. Okay.
Okay. I just turned you up on my end, so we're good. We're good. All right. All right.
I don't know. The whole paying it forward thing too. I feel like that's usually more done in drive-throughs.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what I thought too.
Understanding, because,
and that's why it caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Look, when she paid, I'm just like, I actually could see you. Usually you pay it forward.
Exactly.
You can't see the person.
It's like a surprise.
It felt so awkward though, because it's the airport. So after she pays, we don't get our drinks right away. We got to wait for like 5 minutes. So we keep doing the whole looking at each other like, hey, thanks again. And she's like, hey, don't forget to pay for you. And it was like that weird vibe. And I was like, oh, yeah. So that's why I need to get that.
I'm trying to think if it was done in a grocery store. It's kind of like a similar setting, right? Where everyone's there, where you could see each other in person. Mm-hmm. I feel like for the most part, people don't go in lines and continually pay it forward in grocery stores. I think it is just drive-through, because you're right. You don't actually interact with the people that you're paying for their meals or whatever the hell it is.
Right. Or at least that's what I was thinking.
I think you're fine. No, I wouldn't feel guilty about it.
Well, the chat says that I should either pay for somebody on my trip, just take it and be fine with it. So, yeah. So, either way.
So, hold on. Am I good? Did you adjust it a little bit more? They're still saying I'm a little low.
All right.
Because I can move up. I definitely have a lot of room.
Okay. I'm about to say, because I don't want you to be, all the way up on that red line a little bit. I know you freaky like that, but I don't want you freaky like that today. Okay?
Good. How about now? I think we're good. All
right.
We have to be now.
About to say, feel like it's good. And I'm always going to have a hot mic because, I like to get a little loud over here. That's just how I roll. But anywho, man.
I think we're good. Yeah.
All right. So, man, we got to get to this first topic, though, because we know this is a big move that happened this weekend, man. The Pittsburgh Steelers hiring Brian Flores as the senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach, man. First off, this is just crazy that, he actually is with the organization now, right? Because when he first got fired down in Miami, we talked about him being a guy that should be a candidate for a head coaching opportunity. Even in the sense that we talked on how they were supposed to be tanking. They were supposed to have bad seasons, but yet and still, he turns in back-to-back winning seasons. And more importantly, we talk about how good that defense looked, even in the sense of, them having the quarterback issues between Fitzpatrick, Josh Rosen, Tuitt Tagovailoa. So when I thought of all that, I'm saying to myself, like, dude, for us to get that type of guy on this staff is insane. I mean, when's the last time we had a coach of that pedigree as a position coach? Like, this is nuts to me, man.
Oh, yeah, position coach. I was going to bring up Haley just because he was
the head coach, but he was a coordinator,
OC out in Arizona, but he was OC. Right. And that's the thing. Remember whenever we had the DC spot open, I know Flores was still looking for head coaching jobs.
Right.
He sued the NFL around that time, so there was some things
and the lawsuit is still going on.
I was all for, oh man, could we get him at DC?
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been an amazing hire for us, but we still felt like, he's going to try to at least still get a head coach. But then we hired Terrell Austin. don't really hear much about Flores in terms of coaching or what he's going to be doing job-wise. Then all of a sudden, this just comes out of nowhere, and huge pleasant surprise, in my opinion.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. Like, for me, just thinking of what he's going to bring to this defense. When you're talking about the impact, right? You can never have enough elite defensive minds in the building together. Even though we understand that Coach Tomlin is still going to have his hand in some of the game day play calling, when you're talking about the preparation and when you're talking about cultivating that plan, right? Because I always say, like, with Coach Tomlin, he is the quote unquote master chef. He's the Gordon Ramsay of it. And Keith Butler was like his, sous chef. He was the guy that was right next to him, right under him. Anything he needed, he's like, all right, I'm going to prep it. I'm going to go get all the groceries. I'm going to do everything throughout the week. But on game day, you're the showman. So when I think of Brian Flores and I say to myself, well, who do I think is a better version of Keith Butler in that role? Well, Brian Flores should excel, in a situation like that, because to me, I just think that, man, his understanding of personnel, his understanding of players, his understanding of even in some difficult situations, how to keep his players motivated, how to keep his players responding to him. I don't think that can go unnoticed, And when you talk about that Dolphins roster, we didn't speak of them as having some elite talent across the board, like how we talk about the Steelers at times. And for him to still be able to generate success with that group, I'm just asking myself, what is he going to do when he gets his hands on a TJ Watt, on a Cam Hayward, shoot, even on a Devin Bush, a Minkah Fitzpatrick, like those type of guys that, have either already continued to take that next step, or guys like Devin, who we have a little bit more, we want our higher expectations for him. We want him to kind of reach those things. Brian Flores, he opens up that door to potentially all of that right there.
Well, you hear this stuff people are bringing up about him and Minkah, though, right?
Yeah. Well, because that was a big part of the reason why Minkah wanted to leave, just in the sense of the usage. And I would also say this. I don't personally think it was just usage. I think it was usage along with the losing, because you remember at the time when the trade happened, the Dolphins were getting their head kicked in. I think the Ravens had
those
put
first 2 games, didn't they?
Yeah, the Ravens put 50 on them. Right. So it's like, if I'm a player, I could totally understand the frustration. The difference is he was a first-round pick. So when you're a first-round draft pick, you have a little bit more pull and power in the sense of saying, hey, I'm not happy with this. I don't like the way you're using me. If we're going to be tanking, go ahead and trade me. So with him doing that, I didn't have the issue with it. And I personally don't think that it's going to remain an issue between Brian Flores and Minkah, because here in Pittsburgh, what's the difference between, here in Miami? We're not getting beat by 50, or at least we shouldn't be, right? And for the majority of the time, like, our organization is way more stable. I feel like the leadership in this organization is way more better, and clearly it's not dealing with some of the accusations that those guys in Miami were dealing with on top of that. So, yeah, man, when you throw all that in, I'm like, why would you be happy for Minkah Fitzpatrick being down there? You're young in your career, rookie year, and you're getting moved, or his second year in the league, but they're moving him around and things like that. You just want to get settled, and you feel like if you get settled, then you have a chance to really help have an impact and then ultimately help your team win. But when he doesn't feel like he was getting that, you voice your frustration. So for me, I'm cool with that. I just think that as a whole, it's going to be water under the bridge once he gets out here.
That was like one of the last things on my mind.
Yeah.
I borderline forgot about it.
I
think it was less about Flores. Wasn't Minkah getting misused his rookie year anyway?
Yes, and that was
Flores
the thing.
Came in.
Correct.
He probably saw Minka's talent and was like, dude, you can probably be a do-it-all guy, move to nickel, play all these different positions. Yeah. But I'm sure Minkah just had distrust because he went from one coach rookie year, now with Flores.
Yeah.
You see the organization pseudo-tanking. Yeah, you don't want to be around for that. So I thought it was less about Flores and more about distrust with the organization and where his career was heading down in Miami.
No, I definitely would agree with that, man. I definitely would. And that's, like I said, for me, why I don't really feel like it's going to be an issue. I think going forward, man, I expect Minkah to continue to excel. I think Minkah under Flores and Coach Tomlin and even Terrell Austin, those are 3 guys that understand defense, but more importantly, have intimate knowledge, especially Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin with the secondary. And we've seen since Terrell has been here, the impact it's had on that secondary. So now when you bring in a guy like Flores as well, I just think that all 3 of those guys working in concert together, it's going to be very impressive, man. I'm excited to see it now, man. I
know. I'm real pumped about
who would have thought
and bringing him in.
Who would have thought a hire like this would make us get all giddy?
Any downside to it at all? Am I wrong? There, like,
put
nothing
it
bad
like
to
this.
say about this hire. Bringing in an elite defensive mind and to your coaching staff, like, who doesn't want that on their team?
Right. Now, in terms of potential negatives, right, the only things that you have to acknowledge is the lawsuit still. That is still ongoing. And obviously, the further it gets into litigation, the more it's going to get talked about potentially for distractions, right? So you imagine if you're in October, November, or even in December, and Flores had to, issue a statement or have to do something in litigation, and now that's going to continue to get talked about a little bit. It could be a distraction. And I could see people being a little bit nervous about that or hesitant, asking themselves, hey, man, do we want to bring that on, knowing that we're going to have a new quarterback, knowing that we're going to have some transitional pieces offensively and defensively. But what I would say is this, man, if there's any organization that can handle outside noise, it is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I speak from experience because with Coach Tomlin, we've had to endure situations like that. Everybody remembers the national anthem situation. Obviously, when President Trump at the time made his comments, I mean, it was crazy just going into the facility, death threats, things like that. But the one constant, even in the midst of the turmoil going outside of us, even in the midst of some of the dysfunction within our roster, just from, personal grievances or personal issues with individuals, Coach Tomlin always made it clear what the goal was. He always made it clear why we are all here today. And I just thought, man, when he did that, you saw the season that we ended up having that year as well. I mean, we were racking off those wins back to back to back to back. And it just became that focus of, while everything around us is going crazy, if we keep winning, that'll keep us sane. That'll keep us calm. And I just think that, man, with a guy like Coach Tomlin, regardless of what is brought up down the line with this Flores lawsuit, I just think that as a whole, he's going to be able to keep this team together. He's going to be able to keep this team focused on, the task at hand, which is ultimately trying to win another championship.
Well, not only that, I was watching Flores' interview with I Am Athlete and like Brandon Marshall and Ocho Cinco yesterday. And he's about the same exact thing. He even said the standard is the standard. And I don't think he's going to try to be a distraction at all. He's going to make it about football when he's in the building, all about the team, trying to put your best foot forward and that type of stuff. Because if anything, too, the lawsuit, I'm just taking a guess on this. The players are just going to react only in a positive way to the lawsuit and being in the building because he's standing up for something he believes in.
Yes. And think about this. As a minority, what did we say the NFL is largely made up of in terms of the players? It's predominantly minorities. So when they look at Brian Flores, they see him as what? The beacon of hope, the guy who is revolting. He is the modern day William Wallace in an extent to the NFL because he is standing up to the organization. He is standing up to the corporation in terms of the NFL and their brass, right? When you start messing with those guys, lawsuits against those guys, we know, man, that's a very powerful bunch. But the fact that he has a Mr. Rooney in his corner, I think that's huge for him. I don't think that this works anywhere else realistically because of that, because of the way Mr. Rooney operates and obviously having the Rooney rule as well. I just think that he is kind of like that one-off where it's like, hey, in the midst of this lawsuit, in the midst of the potential tension between ownership and Brian Flores, Mr. Rooney can be that buffer. He can be that in between that brings Brian Flores on the staff, but at the same time, shields him a little bit from all the other owners just trying to pile up on him, which we know they can do at times. So to me, man, like I said, I just think that this is still going to be a very positive situation. I think the players are going to react very positively from it as well, because I know if I was in their boat, I would as well. I would love this hire. If I'm Devin Bush right now, if I'm Robert Spillane right now, if I'm TJ, Alex Highsmith, man, I am hyped as heck because I know I have a stand-up guy in terms of not just on field, but a guy that if he sees or hears some foolishness going on, like the allegations about tanking and things like that, he's not going to stand for that. And as a player, as a man, that's all you want. You want a guy that is going to be real with you, right, wrong, or indifferent. A guy that, even if it's frowned upon, even if the majority doesn't like it, he's saying, hey, look, this is who I am. And that's all you can ask for, man. So for me, man, like I said, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, that is the other positive. You know we ain't tanking this year because we hired him.
Hey, ain't that the truth? That's the daggone truth.
No, but yeah, I don't think the lawsuit will be a distraction at all. Like, he's not going to bring that into work. He's talked about it many times. He's like, I just want to coach football. I know I'm put on.
And he was very clear. And he's been very clear with that since the beginning of this lawsuit, because that was, remember what we said? We said, man, we felt that, you know, when the whole Kaepernick situation happened, that was the one thing that he really didn't do enough of, was put emphasis on, hey, I still want to play. I still want to be out there. It was more so he focused so much on the activism part that the message became skewed. It became, oh, he doesn't want to play anymore. He just wants to do this. In all actuality, it's like, no, he still did want to play. But with Brian Flores, he made sure from the beginning to be very clear, be very concise about his messaging, that, hey, man, I want to coach. This is my calling. This is my passion. This is what I do. I love it. And for me, man, I'm just glad that that did not get convoluted. It did not get, you know, hijacked in a sense, because he did not continue to put emphasis on that. So for me, man, like I said, I just think that, man, he's handled this situation as best he could, because we know this is not an easy thing to deal with.
Okay, so we could take this in a few different directions.
Yeah.
What do you think of the hire in terms of his role, not only this season, but potentially long term? Because people are starting to bring up, oh, is he the potential replacement for Tomlin if Tomlin wants to retire? Yeah. Could he beat out Terrell Austin for the DC role as early as this year even, you know? And then, worst case, you know, he could just take over the DC next year if he wants.
Right. So,
how do you view it? Because from my standpoint, I'm just like, bro, we got in a really great coach. Can we just focus on this year? Because for him, he's really overqualified for this right now. So if this is just some type of stepping stone for him to try to get back into head coaching next year, I'll take it. I don't really have that high of expectations for him being here long term, but I think that will be awesome if he is.
Yeah, so what I'll say is this, man. In terms of him beating out Terrell Austin for DC, I don't think that that's on the table right now. I don't think that they're going to try to make it a competition between those two guys, because they literally just hired Terrell Austin, and he's actually been in the system, right, for multiple years. He had to kind of earn his keep in terms of moving up, right? But if you think about when we brought in Terrell Austin, he had similar titles as well, didn't he? He wasn't just the secondaries coach. You know, he had one of those cool executive, you know, defensive assistant, senior assistant type titles as well. So you could see with the title, number one, it guarantees pay being a little bit higher. But number two, it just gives you a little bit more credential, right? So whenever you are ready to bump back up, whether you're talking coordinator or head coaching role, you have a title that qualifies you for that. So when I think of him being, you know, the senior defensive assistant, well, hey, man, whenever he does decide to go back to either being a coordinator or even potentially a head coach again, he's going to be able to say that, hey, when I got fired, I didn't go back and just be a linebackers coach. No, I was a senior defensive assistant as well as a linebackers coach. You know what I mean? Yeah, because they're two different levels. If you're just a linebackers coach, you're only focused on those linebackers, whether it's inside or outside guys, right? But you're not dealing with the D-line. You're not dealing with the corners or the safeties or the overall schematics and game plan of the defense. Whereas now, as senior defensive assistant, you are included in those meetings. You are included when they're talking about some of the personnel decisions, when they're asking, hey, is 55 still a good player? Or should we move 55? He's going to be in those conversations now because he's the senior defensive assistant. So for me, man, I don't think, like I said, I don't think they're going to need to move him or make him defensive coordinator by title at any part in this season. But what I will say is this, in terms of how long do I think he stays here in Pittsburgh? I look at it like a 2-year rental at best, because I know that he's going to want to be a head coach again. My concern is this: I just don't feel like it's going to happen within these next 3 years, largely because of the lawsuit. The NFL does not like to be sued, man. They don't want to ever look bad. And we know when they find a way to escape or get out, they're going to do whatever it needs to do. They're going to do whatever they need to do to ultimately make that happen. So with a guy like Brian Flores, I just don't know organizationally outside of Pittsburgh who is bringing him in, knowing some of the stuff that, you know, he's been dealing with, right? Because if you happen to be an organization that may be borderline needing to tank, what is that dynamic going to look like when Flores comes in? Because you have to remember, Flores isn't going to be going to an established team if he goes back to being a head coach. Most of the time, the jobs that are open are the jobs that, you know, the team won 2 games, 4 games, 6 games. So they're project pieces. And when I think of all of that, I just don't know how comfortable a owner or GM might be bringing Flores in, knowing what he's already been on record standing against. Even though we know that, hey, that's the best way to go about it in terms of, hey,
that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You have much respect for Flores. He's like, bro, I'm just not tanking. I have too much respect for the game. We're all out here trying to win.
Right. But we know at times it's like, if you could get a better draft pick, could that help change the face of your organization? I'm sure Cincinnati would attest to that by them getting Joe Burrow and then trying to get Jamar Chase. Yeah, absolutely. So when I think of that, it's like, I see the pros and cons to both of it, but from an integrity perspective, I'm just like, man, why would you want to tank? As a player, it's just something that just feels like taboo. You know what I mean? Like, you don't tank? Like, what? I'm not going out here and knowing I'm going to lose? Like, nah, I ain't signing up for that.
Knowing I'm going to lose so you could maybe draft someone to replace me.
Like, come on, man. What I look like?
Yeah.
All right. But we did get a couple supers. Let me read the did you have anything else you had want to get real quick?
I think we're good because maybe the next thing is just Devin Bush, but we're going to touch on that next topic. So
yeah, absolutely. So let's see what we got in the supers.
Good on the Brian Flores. It's just a really good hire, all-around hire. I mean,
yeah, man. Like I said, even with I was like, if you had to put a con on it, it's just that we know, the lawsuit is still going to be going on. We know that he's probably going to be looking to bump back up to a coordinator role or at least a head coaching role, in the next couple of years, realistically. So you just know that this is going to be a short thing. But what I will say is this. If he does change his mind and he does happen to love it here in Pittsburgh, well, if Coach Tomlin and, in the future, he's like, I'm ready to leave. Well, we would have that in-house guy that we always talk about, right? And we always say, hey, in Pittsburgh, we really don't have a guy that if Tomlin were to leave, we feel confident is the successor. Well, now I think we do.
What's interesting about that, though, is we had that guy back whenever Cowher left and Russ Grimm. Yeah. And we went completely off the rails and went with Tomlin.
You're right. You're right. You told me that.
Yeah. I don't know how much we should look into him potentially being the successor to Tom. At least right now, I think it's a great thing just to get him in-house because say in a year he leaves for a coordinator spot somewhere else, Tomlin in 4 or 5 years says, you know what, man, I've done everything. I already got the Super Bowl. Maybe, hopefully he gets another one here in the next 4 or 5. He's like, I want to hang it up. We got that connection to Flores now. Maybe he comes over here.
Call him up
DC
like, yo,
to head coach. Exactly.
I think BF, what you doing, bro?
It only helps for multiple reasons. On the field, for connections down the line, bringing in an in-house guy as head coach, maybe. But I could see Tomlin, though, coaching for another 10 years.
Hey, but what about this, though? You know what we have not actually talked about with Brian Flores?
What?
Remember the quarterback that we've been mentioning? The one that has been the lightning rod because of the allegations. What was the one person that he wanted to play for? Who was the one person? It was Brian Flores. Yeah. He wanted to go to Miami for Flores. So when I think of that, I also say to myself, man, what does this potentially open up for us in terms of free agency, in terms of enticing players to want to come? Because as a guy who's
not just Deshaun Watson.
Right. Just in general, you think of J.C. Jackson, you think of guys that have played for him. Those are like, and who's the guy that we talked about? Right. So for me, when I think of that, I say to myself, man, as a former player going in that mindset, right? If anytime I hit free agency, I was always looking for my connections. Who do I know? Because it's like, man, you're going to be able to find that money, but you want to know somebody. You want to feel like you have a guy that you trust, a guy that can develop you, or a guy that just understands how you work. For me, it was Coach Tomlin, and it wasn't even the X's and O's. It was just, hey, man, I know you. You're from my hometown. We talk every time we see each other. It's always love. I trust you. I'm going to turn down Cleveland. I'll turn down New England to come here. So when I think of Brian Flores being here now, I think in similar situations. I'm like, man, what if you are Stephon Gilmore? What if you are a J.C. Jackson? What if you are, now I'm not saying we want him, but even a Dante Hightower type. It's like, man, if you're on the fence about
he's a free
it,
agent too.
Right? But it's like, and I was saying not that we're targeting him, but just for conversational purposes, it's like, man, if you're on the fence about coming to Pittsburgh, because Dante has visited Pittsburgh before, he did that. That had to be 15, 16 time frame, because I remember we was on the roster still looking at
after his rookie deal.
His rookie deal, he had came into town and visited and everything. But when I think of that, I say to myself, well, hey, maybe having a Brian Flores in the building now closes those type of deals. Maybe you start tapping into some of those New England type players that have had success that we know can fit our scheme, especially some of these corners that we've been mentioning. Now you kind of have a little bit more help recruiting those guys, or at least you should. So for me, man, that's another part for me, man, that I'm excited about with this Flores hire.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Yeah, another thing actually is the linebackers he coached, because now he's going to be linebackers coach here up in New England. I mean, they've overachieved whenever he was the coach. You got Van Noy.
Come on, bro.
I had a dude I didn't even know his name. He was like a 6th-round pick. He turned into like a 6 or 7 NFL career here. Landon Roberts, middle linebacker.
52.
I didn't even know this dude's name.
He rocked that 5 deuce,
New
man.
England up there, started games. Then he followed Flores down to Miami.
Shoot, he got Kyle Van Noy paid. He got
exactly.
Shout out to Nikovic, man. He got Nikovic, man. He definitely blossomed out. Granted, Nikovic was already a good player though, but yeah, man. You think about those guys that came from under him. We're not speaking of Rob Nikovic in the same conversation of a T.J. Watt athletically, nah. But we know that number one with Nico, man. He gets the most out of it. You know what I mean? And he like, they're just so smart. And that's the thing. When we talk about a New England team, we never looked at them. I knew me personally as elite talent. It was just we knew they were going to be great coached and they were going to be ultra disciplined. And that was going to be our Achilles heel, because we always said, you know, they're the private school, real clean cut, always focused, and we the city guys. We public with it. So it's like we got crazy talent, but we weren't as disciplined for 4 quarters. And always when we played them, we felt like that was always going to be the difference there. But with that being said, though, man, like I said, with Brian Flores, I mean, I just think that it's the pros like drastically outweigh any con in this situation right now, man.
Now, with what you brought up about bringing in free agents or potential talent to the roster, and I guess specifically with Deshaun Watson, his timeline's a little tricky right now, because there's some news that came out. Isn't there something going on with in May? Like, we might not even I don't know the exact timeline, but I think he's got some stuff going on with like depositions coming up within this month. But then there's something going on still in May. So, like, teams are going to have to even wait that out. Yeah. And then you hear some of Kevin Colbert's comments today saying, like, oh, we're good with Mason Rudolph. He went 5-4-1. We're fine with him going forward. So that it makes me think less and less we're even going to trade for a quarterback, let alone Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, but we'll get to that, though, because obviously that's on the docket as well, man. We'll definitely get to that. But do you have these supers on your end, or you want me to get them real quick, man?
I got it.
All right, let's rock with those. Shout out to DeMond
I'm
Brown.
curious to know what type of compensatory do we look to get if Flores gets hired as a head coach after the season. We are developing a minority coach. We win a Super Bowl. Yeah, so Colbert is MVP. Peace.
We're saying in that reign. If we do get a Super Bowl, man, that would be amazing. But what I'll say is this: in terms of the compensation for Brian Flores, if he does get hired as a head coach, a coordinator, or anything in the executive vein, yes, we will get draft compensation. I believe it's a 3rd-round pick.
I heard the 3rd, yeah.
Yeah, it's a 3rd, because I know the Kansas City Chiefs, they have a situation where they're getting a 3rd-round pick this year as well, because one of their people, one of the minorities that they developed got hired as an executive. So, yeah, that's definitely the case, man. Absolutely. But no, man, depending on how we can, maneuver through free agency in this draft, like we said, we don't feel like the Steelers as a whole are a, team in dysfunction or a team with a gross amount of holes. We think they have very specific holes, and those holes are very impactful when you're talking about quarterback position, when you're talking about inside linebackers, when you're talking about the O-line in a sense. But they can be fixed this offseason. So it's not too far-fetched. It's not too out of this realm to think that, hey, you kill it in free agency, do what you're supposed to do in the draft, that you can bring in, or that you can have a legit season where we're, feeling like it's supposed to be. In terms of being realistic, being highly competitive, and ultimately making a run for this thing, I don't think that the Steelers are too far off from that. But it's really going to be dependent on how they maneuver through this free agency and draft.
100%.
Yeah.
And these Colbert comments are really interesting. I know we'll get to that later, but it looks like he's going to have a little bit more of a role, not only in the draft, but going forward than we thought. Black Lavender. Moats got high as a kite night 1 out there.
I wish.
They took everything from you.
Yeah, man. It's cold turkey over here, man. It's way, way different, man. But
you're just getting high off life.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I wake up, I got the ocean right in front of me, man. It's a beautiful view.
Where are you at? Are you in Los Angeles?
Yeah. So I'm probably like 40 minutes north of LA. I'm almost like where Bart Basquiat is, Thousand Oaks. I'm like out that way.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm like literally right
closer. Yeah, what is that, in between LA and San Francisco?
Yeah, at least that's what I felt like. I mean, the ride from the airport was a nightmare. I mean, I didn't realize landing at 1:30 in LA trying to drive 40 miles was not going to be the best decision. That car ride was like 3 hours, bro. Yeah.
What time did you land in LA?
1:30 p.m.
1:30.
Like, in the afternoon.
Like Saturday/Monday night. Oh, no, it was in the
it was in the middle of the day. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was like I said on a Sunday, so I didn't think it was going to be traffic like that. All right, and it was like this is a light day. I said, oh, this is crazy.
Dave Shipley.
Yeah.
Wasn't much a head coach.
Position coach. He was, but the reason I was saying it was different. Yeah. For me, I just looked at Munch in Tennessee. I didn't feel.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call, actually.
Yeah, but did you feel as high on Munch coming from Tennessee as a head coach? And that's my thing. Like, I didn't feel like I would view that as, oh man, he really turned it around and he was killing it there. Whereas when I look at Flores, it's like, bro, we knew they were supposed to be tanking. Fired. Yeah, like they were supposed to be tanking. They were depleting the roster, trading. Dude, they traded away Laramie Tunsil and all these other key players just a year prior to him arriving. But yet and still, even with them starting slow, they end the seasons, 8 in a row, 9 in a row. That's craziness. Whereas I never felt that.
It was 2019 where they were bad. They were like 0-7, 0-8.
Right.
They won 5 of their last 9 games.
Yeah, and he swept New England. Think about how many teams we talk about. Bro, we can't even say Coach Tomlin has done that in terms of playing the Patriots multiple times in the season. Flores has done that. So when
He's
think
done
of
good
that,
against Lamar Jackson,
absolutely. Too. It's like, man, like I just never felt like with Munch it was to that level. I thought with Munch it became better once we saw the results of the offensive line. And I think that's when our perception of him really changed. I don't think in 2014 when we first hired him, we thought of him like that, because I know when I got to the team in 2014, that was not the overarching feeling about him. But by the time 15 got, 16 got, and then 2017, it was like, oh no, this dude, he's a monster. Like he knows what he's doing, but he had to earn that. Whereas Flores is already coming in with those type of expectations. He's already coming in with that type of air about him.
Yeah. 2014.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Munchak hire, you're right. It wasn't really on my mind too much. I just, outside of just, good hire. I mean, if this dude climbs up the ranks to be a head coach, he was pretty damn good at whatever position coach he was in. So, there wasn't, you're right, there wasn't the huge expectations for it, though, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, Coy Harris, first off, good morning, my brothers. Yes,
Top
indeed.
of the morning. I'm about to say, what time is it? I don't even know where you're at, Sequoia. It's like 6:38 in the morning right now, baby.
It's early for you.
Oh, yes, indeed.
9:30 out on the East Coast.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm starting to feel for all of my West Coast folk out here when we have these early morning streams. But the thing is this, ladies and gentlemen, we love y'all. We want to make sure y'all get this content. So sometimes we got to, have these wacky times while, Moats is away, getting enlightened.
He continues and says, Moats, you just answered my question about Watson. But what are the chances of us getting a DW now that we have Flores?
Deshaun Watson? Like I said, the biggest thing is the litigation part for him, right? If he can get the legal issues taken care of in terms of the lawsuits, because it's still civil. It's nothing criminal just yet, and that's why the NFL has not stepped in.
Yeah, that's something with the timeline they're trying to figure out, too.
So it's like
the next month they're trying to figure out if he's going to get charged criminally or not.
Right. So if they charge him criminally, well, that's a game changer. That takes him off the table. And obviously he'll have to go fight that court case, and then we'll see what happens after that. But if they do not charge him criminally and it still remains a civil case, I do think that potentially opens up the door for a team to potentially bring him in. And I know people will say, well, man, those allegations are allegations. Like, that's crazy. And you're 100% right. And trust me, I hate the fact that we're even talking about him with these allegations, but due process is a legitimate thing. And we know you have to have due process just because we've seen, either party could be lying, right? Whether you're talking guys or females in this situation. And that's why we don't want to point fingers either way. But when you think of the NFL, you think of some of the guys that have been employed in the NFL. You think of some of the allegations that these guys have had in the NFL. quarterbacks, running backs, linebackers. I mean, not just sexual assault. We got guys that have murdered people or even been accused of it's a lot that has happened with some of these NFL players, both in the past and currently. So I just think that if his case does not go to a criminal vein, if it stays in that civil ballpark, I just think that, man, he will find employment sooner rather than later. But it really is going to hinge on that criminal element, because that's just the one part where it's like, you cannot bring that guy on if it's criminal. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't do it. As long as it stays in the civil case, you can make, you can research some more and make your decision on that. Obviously, settlements and things like that would have to happen. But as a whole, it just cannot be criminal. That's the big part for me, man.
What do you think if Deshaun Watson's cleared? How much do you think of Flores being only the defensive assistant / linebackers coach would affect some type of trade? Like, how much pull do you think?
No, put it like this, man. I think, honestly, we become the forefront for a couple of reasons. Are you ready? Number one, we got Coach Tomlin. Okay? Guys relate to Coach Tomlin. That's just the nature of it. Then you got Brian Flores, a guy that Deshaun Watson had already expressed interest in wanting to play for. Now, I say this in the sense of, just because he expressed the interest to Brian Flores and wanted to play for him didn't mean that he didn't want to come to Pittsburgh. But you got to remember this. At the time when he was expressing interest, at the time when he was going through and saying he wanted to be traded,
right?
Who was our quarterback? We had Ben Roethlisberger. So why would he talk about wanting to come to Pittsburgh if you know Seven is here and that's the guy that you're competing against, same conference, y'all both are franchise quarterbacks, so it just didn't make any sense. But he looked at Miami and said, y'all got Ryan Fitzpatrick, you done had Josh Rosen, and now you got Tuitt. Man, I'm nicer than all them dudes. It's not even close. And that, to me, is why, Miami became so much more exciting to him. And then when you throw in the Brian Flores element, minority head coach, a guy that he felt he could relate to, it's perfect sense. But now you just take that same situation and you put it in Pittsburgh with more organizational stability, with a better overall roster. And now if you're Deshaun Watson, you're saying, dude, yes, this makes even more sense. But that's just the one element, right? The personal, could it sway him, yes or no? The second part is this. We talked about our cap space. We have a ton of it. We talked about our draft capital. We got the pieces that if we really need to make a move to trade for a Deshaun, if we need to pick up a contract like that, or even do some things restructuring it to make it just a little bit better for us, we can do that. And we're in position to do that. And we also said, if you're going to get a guy like a Deshaun, we know he has a big price tag, but it's because he's a force multiplier. When you have a Deshaun, you might can cut a corner on, some of these O-line. You might can cut a corner on something defensively. You might can cut a corner elsewhere because he can account for that. He can be good enough to be 2 and 3 players out there. And that's the part for me where I'm like, yeah, if you're the Steelers and you really want to go that route of saying, hey, I want this quarterback. I want this proven franchise quarterback. Well, that's in play for you now. So to me, I just think that depending on, like I said, the criminal versus civil element, as long as it stays civil, I think that he is still very, very much in play now. Whereas if it goes criminal, I just think that he becomes off the books.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about Colbert because that's like my next question of like, it just doesn't sound like we're that eager to do anything at quarterback, anything splashy at least, where I could see them drafting a rookie. I could see them bringing in like a Fitzpatrick or something to wait in the wings, but I guess we get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll definitely get to it.
Kind of unrelated note here, but the annual Cleveland implosion is happening. Landry wants out as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're Jarvis Landry, I mean, you saw your boy, your best friend, go out there, dominate, win a Super Bowl. You saw Odell look like Odell. That's the big difference. It's like you can believe in Stefanski, and that's fine because I do think schematically he is a really good coach. You can believe in Baker, but the difference is this. We know in Cleveland, the way that they want to run that offense and the way that they highlight Baker's strengths, it really doesn't highlight Jarvis Landry. And it didn't highlight Odell because we talked about that that's a team that needs to play through the running game and, hit on some of the play action stuff, right? Not a lot of we're going to feed you 100+ targets and stuff like that at a high level. Whereas if you're Jarvis and you're saying to yourself, what if I get with a Matthew Stafford, right? Because Stafford isn't even a guy that we were viewing as like the best of the best. Like we still thought he was in that conversation in terms of top 5 and stuff like that. But as a whole, we didn't think that he was the answer to everything, right? So it's just like, man, you see Odell go out there and have that type of success. It has to make you wonder, like, what if I go find an equivalent of a Matthew Stafford? What if it's a Ryan Tannehill? What if it's somebody that mid-tier, but we know just is better than a Baker? You know,
not only quarterback, but good coaches too.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Good offensive minds, whatever it is, because you know how McVay runs that thing. Whereas like Stefanski with the Browns, we both agree he's a really good coach, but they're running everything through Nick Chubb, and rightfully so because of Baker. So maybe it is a little bit more about the quarterback, because I'm sure if he had a top 10 guy, he'd be airing it out.
Right, it changes everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Caleb, man. Cool. Ready for this one? It says Moats trying to be slick. He's secretly in Buffalo.
I totally didn't see that. Well, I have been seeing Jacob Malacio talk about how much he loves my shirt. I've been reading in the chat. A lot of people are like, yo, I'm so glad Moats packed that Bills shirt for the first show now that he's away, because they know how much they love Buffalo, and they know how much you love Buffalo, Deke. We know it. We did it reverse day. You put on your Pens jersey because you know I was missing the Pens. I was missing hockey. I put on this Bills shirt because I know you were missing Buffalo. I get it. You even told me you were excited about going back up there next season. I know. I got you. Okay, we'll get to that when we get to that.
It better be a winter game, right? It's got to be a winter game.
Yeah, it's got to be a winter game.
Although, no. We talked about this because I don't want to get stuck up there because of the snow and stuff.
You would definitely get stuck. Yes.
First week of the season wasn't that bad of a time slot.
We want September. We want first 2 weeks of October. After that, good luck. But yeah, man, everybody's been talking about it. It was like, yo, I just love this Bill shirt. He's like, is that a new Bill shirt? Might have popped the tag. Can't confirm nor deny.
Like a Mitchell and Ness or something, huh?
You know. We did the his and hers, you know. Yeah, man. Me and wifey, you know. She wanted to have a little Bills. I threw my Bills. It's funny all of a sudden, right? I call them all the time in the mornings now that I've been out here. And I'm like, yo, y'all rocking Bill stuff like y'all really in Buffalo. Like, hey, what's going on? Wifey had the sweatshirt. Little lady had the hoodie. My G-man had the hat on. I'm like, bruh, did I not get the memo? So, yeah, man.
I don't know what's happening.
Hey,
AJ Martinez. Good?
Yeah, you good.
AJ Martinez. Master Moats is in a monastery. God bless you.
Oh, man.
Seeking monk life.
You know, I'm just I'm trying to become one with myself. Yes. I'm going to become a swami.
Black Lavender says, you two going to the Philly game this year? I live in Jersey, so I'd definitely be attendance if you guys go.
Okay. Well, no, we haven't confirmed just yet, but that is something that we'll put on the table, though, potentially, man. I know Philly, Buffalo.
We might need to be ready to drop the gloves out there.
Atlanta was, I heard. Yeah, I know Philly gets real active. But Atlanta was another one. Yeah. It's a couple hot spots this season, potentially, man, that, you know, we might try to do something too. Might even have to do like a live podcast, something out there or something, man. Like, have a meet and greet with the crew, you know? I mean, well, we're always trying to, you know, make it bigger and make it better, right? Make it more intimate, or however we want to do it. So, you know, those are all the things that we are in the planning process for, in some capacity. So, yeah, man. But it is good to at least know that is something you're interested in. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That is the last one.
All right. So we will go to this second topic then, because it is right on par with what we're talking about anyways. But that is, you know, has our opinion on Devin Bush changed now that we have a Brian Flores here? Boy said yes. You ain't even got to finish the question, bro. Yes.
It does. You know, I was talking about trading him. Then we could bring in Devondre Campbell. There was so many good things about trading Devin Bush. Clearing up cap space. We could bring in a stud linebacker.
Yep.
We didn't have anyone that we really thought that was going to coach him up like potentially Brian Flores could, though. So, yeah, I'm good with keeping Bush. Although there is a hint of me that still feels like, you know what, I think it's still the smart move to trade him. But now it goes back to what you said about the offensive line. If we had Munchak, maybe you are less concerned in the agency or draft in addressing every position or multiple positions on the line, because you feel like Munchak could coach the dudes that we have up.
Yeah.
I think the same thing with Flores. I feel like these coaching position matters. So with him being there, I feel like he's going to be able to coach up the linebackers. Hell, Buddy Johnson might be low-key a stud now. Okay. See, now you're speaking my language, Deke.
Yeah. So for me, bro, like, I am very, very excited. And it's funny, man, just the timing of everything. I was actually in the process of breaking down Devin Bush tape, because I really just wanted to create something where we can just talk about what he does really well and some of the things that he struggles with, to just kind of put it out there on the table. But now with Brian Flores being in, I think that he's even more relevant. So I definitely want to get that out to you guys, as soon as possible, because, man, with Flores, he is going to be able to greatly improve Devin, just in the sense of, like you talked about Munchak. If you don't have Mike Munchak, are we talking about a Chris Hubbard? Are we talking about a Matt Filer? Are we talking about an Alejandro Villanueva? Not at all. Zero chance. And even to the sense that, look at those guys since they've left. Now, we understand it's been different, but since Munchak has been removed from those guys directly, all of their play has looked a little bit different, right? In terms of how we view them, in terms of the standard that we hold them, or the regard that we hold them with. But when you think about what Brian Flores could bring to that table in that inside linebacker room, I think that, he can ultimately develop Devin Bush even more. Buddy Johnson, Robert Spillane, even Joe Schobert, if we decide to keep him or restructure that contract, however we want to deal with that. I just think that having Brian especially be titled linebackers coach as well, we know he's going to be hands-on. We know he's going to take that same energy, that same approach that he had as a head coach, as a defensive coordinator, that same approach in terms of preparation, in terms of the details. And instead of it being big picture, he's going to be able to zero in on Devin Bush. He's going to be able to zero in on that linebacker group. And I just think, man, when you get that type of attention, that level of coaching on an intimate level like that, you are going to grow as a player exponentially. And I speak from personal experience because, once again, with Coach Tomlin, right? You heard Terrence Garvin when he was on the show last week or whatever, talking about our winning edge meetings and how you had to be a certain quality player or person to even get introduced into those meetings because they were intimate with Coach Tomlin. When I finally got my access to being in those meetings, you got to earn it. That's the thing. You definitely got to earn it. But when I, finally was able to get into those meetings and you start to hear the details of a head coach, of a coordinator on that level, but when he's specifically talking about you, hey, Moats, don't stay in the 6 right here, shade it a little bit. Hey, Moats, when you drop right here, don't look at the receiver. You want to have your eyes back on this guy right here because you're going to try to steal this cross that they like to run. Those little coaching points that, if I'm just telling you right now, Deke, hey, man, do your curl flat drop because it's cover 3. You're not going to be thinking about those intimacies like that, the little intimate details like that. Whereas with Flores, he's bringing that to those guys day to day now. It doesn't just have to be one day a week because with Coach Tomlin, it was always on Fridays, right? Friday after practice, we get our winning edge group, the select few. But now with Brian Flores, it's like, Devin Bush, you're going to get this on Monday. You're going to get this on Tuesday. You're going to get this on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then on Saturday. You know what I mean? You can call this guy whenever you need to, and he is going to be able to give you everything you need to know from a mentality standpoint, from a just X's and O's perspective. And for me, I just think that is going to be largely beneficial for Devin because what I've talked about with Devin, I've told you, man, I know people want to throw his performances this past season on the knee, and I've been a big person telling you that I do not think it was the knee, the reason why he was playing like that, because when I cuddle the tape, he runs well. He's not getting outran. He's not getting juked out of his shoes. So it's not that he can't break down. It's not that he can't run fast, but it looks like his eyes are bad. Like he doesn't see what he's supposed to see, or he's late. And when he's late and undersized, it puts him in bad situations. But I said, hey, if you can increase the film study, if you can just increase his overall understanding and reaction time, maybe you tap back into what we saw early in his career that made him so exciting, that made him worth a top 10 pick. And that's the part where I say with Flores, he can potentially tap into that mentality. He can potentially tap into Devin on a personal level because even though you have Coach Tomlin, Coach has to be the head coach of everyone. So he can't have just this day-to-day one-on-one all the time that a position coach can give you. So when you have a Brian Flores, who is a former head coach in his own right, coming in now being able to give you that one-on-one as a position coach, I just think that the benefit for that is going to be insane, man. So that's why for me, man, my optimism for Devin has shifted a complete 180 because of Brian Flores being here now.
Yeah, and didn't our linebacking coach situation wasn't it weird last year? Wasn't Jerry
Jerry
out or something?
Yeah, so Jerry
his wife passed away. Was that
correct? Yes, that's correct. So Jerry O, he has been the linebacker coach since 2015 season, but yet his wife passed away this season. He took some time away. I don't even remember who exactly they put in position. It could have been Keith Butler still. I'm just not 100% on it. But
so Devin Bush didn't get that detail.
Yeah, he wasn't getting that
you're talking about last year.
Absolutely, because even if it was from a Keith Butler, well, now Keith Butler is having to coach inside and outside linebackers. It's just a different
and
thing.
Be the DC.
Right. That's a lot of hats to wear at one time. So for me, when I think of that, I say, yeah, man, could that have altered his preparation? Could that have altered, his move? Maybe he was grieving as well. We don't know these things because, just think about this, Deke. If I see you every single day, you lose someone close to you, it's going to affect me because I care for you. So if you're Devin, that could easily be the case. I know I wasn't even on the team right now when Jerry O's wife passed away, and it still made me sad just because I know Jerry O. So I can only imagine if I was having to see him every day and know what his heart was feeling, know some of the stuff that he was dealing with, it could easily distract me. Now, I'm not saying that that's an excuse. I'm just saying that in terms of context, could that have played a role? Sure. I will still say this as an NFL player, why I don't view it as an excuse is because as NFL players, we're conditioned mentally, right or wrong, that when it's time to play, none of that matters. When it's time to prepare, none of that matters. So that's why for me, I'm a little harder on Devin for that. But at the same time, it could very well have impacted him. That's all I'm saying with it.
I feel like with Flores there, it just raises the standard.
Yeah, without a doubt, man.
Him being a leader, like even if Devin Bush, we've been questioning his effort.
Yep.
Does he like it, football? Is he really that into it? I feel like with Flores there, he's going to be like a mentor to Bush. You know how we all need some mentors in our lives. Whenever you're in college, maybe in your early 20s, you don't really know the direction you're going in. You want to get there. You want to get to a certain spot. Maybe you don't really know how, though. I think with Flores being there, dude, I talked about the New England linebackers and just his success as a coach, who he is as a person. Dude, like, I was so impressed with that interview that he did with I Am Athlete, man. I'm like, bro, like I'd want this guy coaching me. Like I want some life advice.
Like he's a genuinely good,
advice.
Right? He seems like a genuinely good guy who understands morals, understands his values, and he's not willing to compromise those for the success. But he also understands that his goal is never changing. Success is always, at the forefront, whichever he views that as, whether it's, like I said, getting back into the NFL as a coach, winning a Super Bowl, whatever his role is, you could just see he's a very detail-oriented guy, a guy that looks like a leader of men. Listening to Brian Flores talk, it reminds me at times of how Coach Tomlin talks. It reminds me of why I love Coach Tomlin so much and why us as players genuinely gravitate to him because of that just no nonsense, just authenticity. You just know that he is cutting it straight to you, And that's something that, as a player, man, that's all you want. You want clarity. And with guys like Tomlin, and from hearing from Brian Flores publicly, it just seems like he is a guy that operates with clarity. He operates in that vein of, man, just being transparent, but coming from a position of love. And that is ultimately what you want as a player. You want to feel like, challenge me, push me, but at the same time, let me know that you love me. Let me know that you're doing it because you want me to succeed, not that you're just being a butthole about it,
Yeah, because that's maybe what happened with Devin Bush this year. Like you said, too.
No seriously, bro.
Anything, but maybe at times he felt helpless from the coaching. Like he didn't have proper direction. You're going to get that with Flores. And I think step forward or an extra step with that is just Flores as a leader. I feel like him stepping in the building, not only Devin Bush, I feel like everyone's game could be raised. Like him coming from the out, like it might, maybe even Tomlin too, dude, because
it pushes
Flores
him now.
Is on, he's one of his peers too as a head coach, and it was a successful head coach.
Absolutely. So I think that not just are they going to push each other because of that, but I also think they can inspire each other. When you talk about Coach Tomlin, we know he has great ideas, but at the same time, it's like, man, when you've been in the same organization for, this long in this role, sometimes the creativity can go away because you're not being exposed to different things. You're not having to deal with different organizations, different players, different schematics. Whereas when you talk about Flores, he went from New England to Miami. Drastically different. But at the same time, he's going to be able to come from Miami and give us some things that he got creative with down there, that he was able to cultivate, that he was able to develop. And ultimately, I think that will help Mike Tomlin out because they're going to have conversations. He's going to say, hey, Coach T, when you run this Tampa 2, instead of having this guy always, play it this technique, what if you have this guy heavy hands on him, but then pulls off of this and does this type of technique? Like, it's going to be things like that he's going to be able to say, hey, I was doing this in Miami and we had success. Guys like Xavier and Howard, we talked about him. He's a guy that we definitely wanted. You know what I mean? In terms of
for Depoy.
You see what I'm saying?
Like double-digit picks.
Hey man, you on this Akello train? I'm over here like, bro, call J.C. Jackson. Let's stop playing games, okay?
You see, he wants $20 million though.
I did see that. I was like, I don't want the 20. Right. I don't want the 20.
So Gilmore might be the better play. Gilmore might be the play.
Yes, I'm not.
2-year deal. Like
I don't like him for 20, bro.
Pop.
Yes, I do not like that man for 20, man. Yeah, but
then Gilmore and Witherspoon would be a nice little combo.
No, it definitely would, man. And like I said, I just think of the fresh ideas, the new concepts that he's going to be able to introduce. I do think that it's going to have a legitimate impact. I do, man. And like I said, that's the part that it makes it exciting. And that's really what we want, right? We just want to feel like, man, we're not going the direction of a lot of these other organizations when they don't have a franchise quarterback that they fall into irrelevancy. We don't want to be the New Orleans Saints. We want to stay competitive. We want to still be in the conversation every single year. And I think, man, bringing a guy like Brian Flores in here, that does upgrade some of those things. That does fine-tune some of these things and ultimately keep us relevant. And like I said, not just from what we have in-house, but also potentially enticing, potentially making free agents want to come here. Because that is another big element when you're talking about bringing in talent and developing talent. They have to want to come here. They have to have the desire. And sometimes it's not always about money. And I've told you that from personal experience. Sometimes it's about fit. Sometimes it's about coaching staff. It's about that trust. You want that continuity. And right now, you're seeing that. You're also seeing that, hey, not just continuity, but we're also bringing in higher level coaches. I mean, even in the O-line situation, right? We talked about a guy like Pat Meyer. We said, man, no, he's not the, best of the best in terms of his track record like a Munchak, but he is way more qualified than Adrian Clem. He's way more qualified than a Matt Canada in terms of at the NFL level. So I just continue to like the fact that we are bringing in a higher class of candidates for our position coaches right now. I do think that that's going to pay bigger dividends going forward, man.
Now we just got to see what we do in free agency. It's coming upon us. We got
seriously, dude,
20 days.
Yeah, man. I feel like
when free agency's popping.
Right at the beginning of it,
First 4 days,
yeah, man. I was like, it's gonna be a lot of these split screen things, but man, shout out to technology, man. We're gonna make that thing work, baby, without a doubt.
I'm trying to. There was one more thing about the Flores with the linebackers. Now, how do you feel about drafting a guy? How do you feel about Devin Bush? I know we talked about, we feel like Devin Bush should get coached up. Do you view him as the guy now just because of Flores, where we maybe don't have to address the position as much?
Put it like this.
In the early rounds, at least.
It eases my mind in terms of taking a linebacker at 20. But for me personally, I still want to get a guy early. Just because, like I said, with Joe Schobert, what are we doing with him? We know what the contract situation is. We know that he was the starter the large majority of the season. So even if you remove him from that spot, I don't necessarily know how comfortable I am right now with a Devin Bush, Robert Spillane for the duration of the season, just because we haven't seen that development just yet, right? And we know that both of those guys have shown some limitations in different avenues, and a lot of those avenues are the same thing in terms of the coverage part right now. So for me, when I think of that, I'm just saying to myself, like, I still am not as comfortable with that, because also the injury element, right? All it takes is one guy going down, and now we're out here talking Spillane and Marcus Allen, Spillane and Buddy Johnson, or Buddy Johnson and Marcus Allen, like we saw, or we didn't see that, but a combination that was going to look like that at times. That just doesn't make me feel the most comfortable. Can we get out of a stadium like that? Sure, but I don't want to do that every week. So that's why for me, I still would want to draft a guy, whether it be second, third round. If you have a guy that's right. Yeah, it's like, I just think that, and it's like I said, it's hard to say right now at 20 just because we don't know what we're going to do quarterback wise through free agency. If we look aggressive at second free agency, we go out there and get a quarterback. Well, hey, at 20 now, go take a linebacker, go take a lineman, go take a corner. You know, but if we don't, if we're not aggressive at that, going for a quarterback then, and say a Malik Willis or a Kenny Pickett is there at 20, maybe now you're like, you know what, let's go get this guy because we didn't think he would be available to us there. So that's why it's like I could just, either way, I think you have a little bit more wiggle room in terms of when you need to address that linebacker spot. I also don't rule out free agency as well, man. I think that's still an element that could be on the table, you know, in terms of bringing one of those guys in that is, you know, just already.
Hightower isn't the worst call.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like a guy that's already been proven. Yeah.
Call the defense, be the leader.
Yeah.
And then Devin Bush goes back to more maybe of his rookie season rule.
Absolutely.
That wouldn't be terrible.
Absolutely. So when I think of that and price point, he's not going to cost anything crazy to do that. So
no, not at this point in his career. No.
Right. So when you put those guys in there like that, I say to myself, yeah, man, this could definitely work out just fine. I mean, you bring in one of those veteran guys in, mid-tier bridge type of guy, 1-2 year deal. Now I like it a lot. Now I don't mind Devin Bush being out there with this veteran guy because I know I at least have the surefire guy. Because with Devin, it's still speculation. We're still optimistic, and we have a lot more reason to be optimistic now with Brian Flores being here. But at the same time, we understand that, hey, we still have to see the work happen. We got to see the development happen. We got to see the improvement happen. And we know it takes two to tango. It can't just be Flores coaching, pouring his heart into this guy. Devin actually still has to want to improve. He still has to want to watch more tape. He still has to want to make more plays and not just say it, but actually show it like we talked about. So that's why for me, it's like, man, I still would potentially want to bring in a guy earlier in that draft, the first 2 to 3 rounds personally.
It's funny, though. We feel good about Devin Bush being a guy now, at least, right?
No, absolutely, though. Yes, I still think he can be completely. A guy. Yes,
like if we don't bring in the veteran guy, all of a sudden, Devin Bush, leader of the defense.
Yeah.
Is that what we're going with? Is that the moniker? Devin Bush, the guy.
The guy. The 5'5".
That's the X Factor Flores brings now.
I hope you're right. I'm a little nervous, but as a whole, I do feel way more optimistic because of Brian Flores being in the building, though. I will say that. And quick.
Who doesn't? Maybe that $6 million deal looks like a steal.
Yeah.
With Flores being there. No, maybe. Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. Maybe like halfway through the season.
Put it like this though.
Man.
Put it like this. Are you picking up his option? Put it like this. Are you picking up his option though?
I'm still not. No.
Okay, fair enough. Because I was gonna say, as much as I'm excited about it, as much as I love Brian Flores
might only be here for a year.
Exactly. And I'm just like, no. I don't want to marry him. I just want to give him, keep him on for this season at least, and we'll see what it looks like. But I do not want to pick up that 5th year option right now. I do not want to extend him right now. I want to really see what version is going to show up mentally and physically, man.
Yeah. So is that all we got for Devin Bush? Flores?
Yeah, we had a couple supers I think just came in. I know John Cooper. He was complimenting my shirt as well. He asked where I got it from. Actually, it's the Bills store. So it's BuffaloBills.com. To their team store, man, you can get all these type of cool shirts like that as well, man.
How do you do that? Do you actually go through website or you call in? You got speed dial or something?
I call in, but everybody else goes through the website. I'm gonna use my discount, okay? Alumni. Even with Pittsburgh, I use my alumni everywhere. I'll be like, yo, I got an alumni discount. You know I play for y'all, right? How many years? A long time. My back hurt. Okay, 30%. Can I get 50?
My back hurt. I'm in this rehab facility, man. They're fixing me up.
You know I'm on here for 30 days. Can I get that? It was Buffalo. Can I get 52% off? Oh, it's Pittsburgh. Can I get 55%? You know what I mean? Like Arizona, we don't really talk. I asked them for 93% off. They hung up on me. So yeah.
You could even drop. Oh man, can't we bump that up another 10 or 15? I might
have
to reveal something that happened.
Yeah, man, shoot.
Hey, rehab, man. I might need to open up a little bit more.
You feel me? I'm like, man, my shoulder. I woke up this morning, it was a little sore. Dang on, man. But
Let me go to super chats then.
Yeah. And while you're about to do that, Stephanie Ramirez, aka Yo Fling, Love and Madden. I know you love the shirt as well. I'm glad you love the shirt. You should get you one too. They make them in women's size as well. Unisex, they're beautiful. Beautiful shirts. Beautiful shirts. Yeah. I think it compliments your eyes and your hair. Yeah.
I think we got Let's Go UW, right?
Yes, that's where we're at.
I think we do.
Mm-hmm.
He says, what do you guys make of Colbert's comments about being open conversation with Tuitt? You think he's coming back, or is Colbert giving him a deadline? You want to hit those after we get through these chats?
We'll hit that. Let's go. You do it right after we get out this chat, because that is actually the next topic we have. So yeah, we'll table that for a second.
Juicebox 32, 400 plus people and not even 100 likes. Smash that like button.
Yeah, well, actually, we're at 132 right now. I think we bumped up a little bit more in terms of the likes, but you're right, man.
Yeah, we need more.
We out here. Come on, babe. We out here streaming. It's early in the morning for some of us, for both of us. Yeah, man. Y'all hit the like button, not just for YouTube today. Y'all hit it for these early mornings. Because y'all know I'm not a morning person, Deke. I tell you this all the time, Deke. And this is usually at 9 o'clock. So you can only imagine me at 7:11 a.m. right now. Yes, please, ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button.
Yeah, I'm sure. Mr. B. Malarkey. With these coaches, can we use guys like Sutton, Norwood, Millette, Minka, and Edmonds and have very flexible and physical secondary?
Yeah,
good season
absolutely.
in 21. I guess, is he talking about the secondary? Good season for 20,
yeah. In terms of
I thought they did pretty decent actually. Secondary wasn't our biggest.
Well, and especially when you think about the question marks we had on the secondary going into the season. You know, we didn't know who are. I mean, we thought it was going to be, Joe Hayden and James Pierre. Then we started to see how it shifted a little bit, right? You bring in Akello, and then from there we saw how Akello was able to carve out a role right later on down the process. So yeah, I do think, man, with those guys that, Mr. B. Malarkey just named off, I do think we're going to see really good growth and development from them. Cam Sutton, I mean, definitely, just because obviously I know him on a personal level, and I just know how he prepares. I know he's a mental guy, you know what I mean, in terms of heavy film session, in terms of understanding the X's and O's, the schematic stuff like that. So once again, a Brian Flores, a Terrell Austin, now in concert with the Mike Tomlin, I think that helps him out a lot more. Young guy, Trey Norwood. Imagine how he's going to be able to develop now. We saw him play and have some success last season also. So we're definitely going to see, him have a chance to continue to grow. Arthur Millette surprised us with some of the things that he did. Man, shout out to my Arthur guy out there. You know what I mean? But the one dude, not even Minka, the one guy that I'm really excited to see what happens with is Terrell Edmonds. Obviously, we know what that means.
Re-sign him. That's
all. We know what Edmonds. We got to re-sign him. That's the big thing right now in terms of price point. I understand if you're Edmonds, it doesn't make sense to necessarily sign right away. You want to get a little closer to combine where you can, throw some fillers out there to kind of see what your market is. And then from there, once we get a little closer to free agency actually opening up, then we'll probably see him re-sign, hopefully, right? Because if he doesn't re-sign before the market opens, then he's gone. That's just how Pittsburgh operates with guys in that avenue like that. But yeah, man, he's the one that if we can keep him, I'm excited to see how much he grows with these guys on the staff now, because I do think he's another guy that could really benefit from having some more high-level guys like that in the building. I mean, you can never have enough high-level football minds. When I came in 14, bro, that's what I felt like when I was surrounded by Keith Butler as my position coach, and I had Dick LeBeau as my defensive coordinator, and then you got Mike Tomlin as your head coach. Man, I felt like I was in football heaven. You know what I mean? I'm walking around like I'm getting this, then I go to talk to this guy, talk to that guy, and it's like you're just hearing like doctorate level football convo. And even if you're not the smartest football brain, you're going to learn. You're going to get remnants from those guys. So that's why for me, I'm just like, I want to see what that dynamic is like when we start to have those guys in the building and they're having these, moments like I just talked about right there, man.
Yeah, Edmonds low key.
Yeah.
We really need to sign. Not low key. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is
flying. He's the guy. You got to sign about it. Yeah.
He's flying under the radar right now. We're not talking about him enough. I don't know if it's just because everyone's assuming he will be back.
Well, I think the biggest thing with Edmonds...
I mean, we need to sign him. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the biggest reason why people haven't been talking about Edmonds as much is, number one, his market, we don't know what it's going to be. Like, where does he fall in this safety market? How do you view him? Because we know he isn't a ball hawk. And we know ball hawks typically get paid more, but we talk about how his positioning in terms of being able to play in the box, being able to just be a short tackler and things like that, how you still need those guys and you put a premium on them, just not to the same extent of the guys that create turnovers. That's why I think it's a weird, situation with him in terms of how we talk about him. But even though we know there's a need for him, because you take him off that field, I do think this defense suffers in a big way. Because we've seen what it looked like before we had stability at the safety position, where we were trying to figure out the perfect pair, and we were going through these different combinations, and guys that either couldn't tackle or guys that couldn't cover. And now we finally have this dynamic where you see how Minkah and Edmonds play together. They trust each other. So when Minkah's in the box jumping routes, he can do that because he knows Edmonds is going to be in the post when, or in the middle of the field. Now, when you talk about Edmonds being down in the box, he can be aggressive because he knows that, hey, if I get beat, I got a guy that is going to cover me in terms of Minkah Fitzpatrick. I have an elite talent back there as well. And I always equate those two guys right now. They're my poor man's version of your Troy and Ryan Clark. You need both of those guys together. You can't have Troy doing everything he did if you didn't have Ryan Clark out there, covering for him. And when I think of Minkah and Edmonds, I think of him to the same, not to the same extent, but in that same vein, that for everything that Minkah is able to do in terms of taking chances. I've highlighted plays where he comes out the middle of the field and goes make a tackle. You're like, bro, this is reckless as heck. But you can do those type of things if you trust the guy that you're playing with. If you trust Terrell Edmonds, you can get away with some of those things and vice versa. So that's why for me, man, I just think you want to keep those two together, man. That continuity, as a player, continuity is king, man. It really, really helps you in terms of when you have actual good thing, which they have, you want to keep it together as long as you can.
Feels like a fit for both sides. I don't know where else Edmonds is going to go. Play to the degree or play to the level that he's playing right now.
Because
it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, because I was going to say go to Buffalo and join your brother, but they are stacked at safety. Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, you're not seeing that field, bro.
And you're not going to have Minkah. Yeah. Minkah's, an all-pro safety.
Exactly. Like, where are you going?
Automatically with a dude like that.
Right. Unless you got to go to Cincy, maybe Jesse Bates, or you going to Denver with Simmons, but do you fit those schemes? Do you fit what they're going to be, trying to have you do? Do you like that coach staff? Like, it's just a lot that goes into that. And if you're trying to get paid, you're not going to break the bank going anywhere where they already have a safety that has broken the bank. So if your market is that, 5 to 8 range, why not take that 5 to 8 where you're going to have success, where you already have that elite safety opposite you, where they're not going to ask you to do something that you're not capable of doing, because sometimes in free agency, you will get paid. You'll get paid nice, but you'll go to a place and they tell you, hey, we don't want you to play this position. We want to change you to this now because we're paying you to do these things now. And some guys, they have success, but a good amount of guys fail. And that is something that if you're Edmonds, you might want to consider, just depending, on what his market is.
He tweeted something out recently. Did you see it?
I did not, man. Like I said, bro, these past couple days, man, I've been like I haven't had a chance to get on anything just yet.
Because I don't want to say it wrong. It had something to do with money, though, and I think people were alluding to him talking about free agency.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. First tweet says, your goals don't... You know what? We were just talking about this. Like Devin Bush and stuff. He says, your goals don't care about your excuses. No. Hold on. Let me see if I can find this real quick. If I can't find it, I'm not going to worry about it. No,
that's the truth, though, bro. Your goals do not care about them excuses, bro.
Maybe he deleted it. He might have, because people were talking about it having to do with his contract. He said, like, no, I'm not even going to misquote it. It kind of was focused around like money over everything, money over something.
Okay.
And people were thinking it had to do with this offseason. I think he deleted it though.
Well, anywho, man. Yeah, you know how social media goes. He can put it.
That could be anything. It
could be a new lyric for his rap. Like, let's be real, bro.
That's what I'm thinking.
And that's the social. That's the beauty of social media, though, right? During these time frames, I mean, even Kyler Murray, how do we know that he was disgruntled? How do we know that he was potentially a trade market? It was the social media part, right? Him wiping all the Cardinal stuff clean. So obviously we know that sometimes it is real, and then other times it's a little bit more speculative. But either way, I mean, Edmonds is right, though. Like, regardless if you're talking about the money element, that is definitely a huge factor because you want to change your life, right? Now, granted, he was a first-round pick, so he's already coming in with a nicer base. But without a doubt, I mean, that plays a part. But the whole, your excuses don't care. I mean, your goals don't care about excuses. I actually love that, man, because that is definitely the truth, bro. That's definitely the truth.
Just tweeted out.
Yeah. Nah, I like that, man.
We have one more super chat here.
And then we'll go to this final topic, man. Sounds good.
Caleb Whisker. Can you talk about Nakobe Dean? I think if he's there at 20, I don't know how we pass on him. We did 10-minute.
We talked about him
on him last podcast.
Podcasts ago. Big fans of Nakobe Dean, man. His rushing ability, his coverage ability, ultimately leadership, athletic ability, rangy, fast, hits hard. Was really the leader of that Georgia defense. I tell you, I love him. I love him as a prospect. For me, I slightly lean Devin Lloyd a little bit over him just because of some of his. I think he's a better pass rusher in terms of when he goes to the perimeter and rushes against tackles. But with Nakobe, man, if he is there at 20, it does make it interesting. But like I said, for me, I would need to know what we did at quarterback first off. Did we address that in free agency, or what did that look like? Because if we didn't soup up our roster in free agency and we really don't bring in a lot of talent in the draft, I just don't know, would you want to do that at 20 and just solely, mortgage this season on Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins? That's just, for me, I'm not as comfortable with that. I know some people are, but for me, I'm not. So that could be one of the reasons why Nakobe wouldn't be in play at 20. But the crazy thing is this, you look at some of these newer recent mock drafts, man, I've seen them have us potentially trading into the top 10 to get some of these quarterbacks. Like, it's getting outlandish right now with this quarterback talk, bro. Like, I think I saw one where they had Kenny Pickett going third overall. Was Malik Willis going third overall? I'm like, bro, I don't know how this is going to happen like this, bro. I thought these guys were good. I don't see them as top 10, 3 of these quarterbacks going in the top 10. Like, that's just me. But that is definitely some of the newer mocks that I've been seeing have been having that. And I'm like, if it gets to that situation where you're talking, right, if 3 of them dudes are gone in the top 10, top 15, yes, Nakobe Dean, if he's available 100%, you take
someone's going to fall.
Right. And like I said, if they're taking those quarterbacks like that, like how some of these mocks have projected, well, we're going to have a better quality of talent to pull from in terms of linebackers, offensive line, corners as well. So I think it still is a benefit, man. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'll be hard pressed to take one of them dudes in the top 5 like that. I mean, they literally had the mock that I had just looked at on NFL.com. I believe it had Malik Willis going 3rd overall to the Giants. And then it had us going into the top 10 to get Kenny.
Giants trade up to 3 to get him.
Yeah, it had us
even though they said we're sticking with Danny Dimes.
Right. It had us going to get Kenny, and then they had Sam Howell. Bro, they had Sam Howell going at 11. I was like, bro, this is because to Washington, I think it was either Washington or Carolina. But I was just like, bro, I don't think the 3 quarterbacks are going that fast. Not with this class. I don't believe it.
Now, if that does happen,
yeah. In terms of what? Us trading into that top 10 to get
hold on. The 3 quarterbacks. The 3 quarterbacks taken early in top 10, top 11. Devin Lloyd starts falling a little bit. Trade up to maybe 11 or 12 to get him. Actually, that's one part of it. You trade up for Lloyd, but you just feel a lot better about him as a fit with Devin Bush then. Because Nakobe Dean, Devin Bush, a little bit similar players, similar
and
body
we said
types.
that. I mean, you remember when I comped him, I said, yo, he looks like what Devin is supposed to look like. So, yeah, I mean, if I had to pick between the two, I would much rather go the Devin Lloyd just because I want to have a yin and a yang. I don't want 2 of the same in that position. So, yeah, I would definitely lean more Devin Lloyd there. But I still would have to consider would I move up for him. But that would really depend on who is picking in front of us still. Because obviously teams would have to move in their own right to even get to some of these top 10 picks with some of these quarterback stuff like that. So I would just need to know, like, man, does this team picking at 15 really need a linebacker, or are they considering taking a Devin Lloyd? If so, then we need to move up. But if I feel like, man, between 15 and 19, nobody's going to be taking a linebacker. We know they need a left tackle. We know they need a wide receiver. We know they're going to get a running back. We know this team looking for a safety. Well, then, yeah, I think we're fine. You just stay put. So that's kind of like how I would evaluate, how I would process it.
I think that's the one guy I would trade up for outside of Malik.
I agree. No, I agree. He is. For me, I don't mind going up for Malik, but I wouldn't want to go up past 15 for him if that makes sense, because I just think the price point becomes too outlandish, and I don't think that right now he is worth that. I think that he's still,
and they're probably not going to start him,
right? And that's my thing. I'm like, if I'm giving up
Mason,
if I'm giving up a ton of assets to move up, I want a guy that's ready to go now, and I just don't think that Malik is going to give us that just next season. I think he could develop into it, but just not next season. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to move up past 15 for that. But Devin Lloyd, he's a guy that I would consider potentially moving up for, depending on how the draft fell. Now, if he goes in that top 10 like I think he's going to go, then, yeah, it's nothing to really talk about. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, I don't want us to move into the top 10 for any of these guys right now. I like where we're at in terms of the flexibility that we have. So, but like I said, we'll see, man. We'll definitely see.
The only way he falls is if the quarterback situation plays out like that mock draft. There's 3 guys taken in the top 10. But maybe even in that mock draft, I don't know if you remember where Lloyd was taken. Maybe he's still going top 10 anyway.
Yeah, I'd have to look at it again. It was just more so because they had us trading up. It just caught me off guard. But we'll talk about that. Maybe I might pull up some of these other mocks, later throughout the week and stuff with some of our other shows so we can look at that. But yeah, it was definitely surprising though, man. Without a doubt, bro.
On to the next topic.
Yes, indeed, man. The final topic for today, actually.
This is the one that's kind of been overhanging over the whole show.
It definitely has, man.
This is one of the more news-breaking interviews we had over the past month or so. Jeez.
Yeah, man. And it was like perfect in terms of the timing of it, right? Missing my drink. But in the sense that we got Kevin Colbert speaking candidly about his role and just the approach to the quarterback position and to the roster. But then at the same time, we also had 3 new candidates that just popped up in terms of the Steelers interviewing them as well. So this is interesting right here, man. I'm excited about this. So first off, let me just read off the names of the guys that have been brought in for an interview real quick, just to do our due diligence there, all right, before I forget about it. So over the past week, the Steelers have brought in they've interviewed 3 more general manager candidates. Ryan Cowden, I think that's how you say his last name, from the Tennessee Titans. Okay. But trying to think, how would I describe his role down there? Give me a sec. He was the vice president of player personnel while he was down there. Spent 6 seasons in Tennessee. Obviously, we think about how the Titans have finished over these past couple of years. They secured the number 1 seed in the AFC this past season. So, he's definitely a guy that is qualified. Obviously, and then in 2016, he was the director of player personnel. And I think he was with the Panthers for 16 seasons prior to that being said for him or him getting that title. So he was the first candidate. The next guy is Ed Dobbs. Now he was with the Indianapolis Colts. Now he's a guy in terms of Dobbs that people really, really are excited about him. Little history on him. He was assistant general manager for the Colts since the 2018 season. He has served as their vice president of player personnel for the Colts as well. Senior personal executive with the Seahawks. Ton of scouting experience. He is very much in the same capacity as a Brandon Hunt, right? In terms of some of the qualifications, in terms of some of the things that we like about B. Hunt, in terms of his ability to find talent. Yeah, they said that good old Ed Dobbs or whatever, he does those similar things though. So I was like, all right, I definitely like that.
Then the second Colts guy we interviewed.
Yeah, it is the second guy. Absolutely, man. And then the third candidate was JoJo Wooden. He's the director of player personnel with the LA Chargers right now. So he's been with the Chargers since the 2013 season, being a part of their pro and college scouting departments. Prior to him getting to the Chargers, he spent 16 seasons with the New York Jets. He was an assistant director of player personnel. So he's really, really backed in that scouting player development role, very similar to a Brandon Hunt also. And he has NFL ties, right? In terms of as a player, he was in training camp, I believe, with it was either the Cardinals. I want to say it was the Cardinals. I don't know if he didn't have like a long playing career, but I know he was definitely in a camp.
Okay.
And I believe his brother, Terry Wooden, they said played 9 seasons in the NFL as well. So you have at least, with those 3 candidates being interviewed as well, I just really think that, man, the team is doing a great job with their due diligence. With those 3 guys, 2 minorities, 1 non-minority, I like the diversity of the group. I like the qualifications. I like the different backings of all those guys and how some of the guys are a little bit more qualified, like an Ed Dobbs. But then you also have the intriguing guys that, make you feel like they could take over that role, like a Ryan Cowden or a JoJo Wooden. So, yeah, for me, man, I think that these are definitely just more higher quality candidates that we're introducing, that we're interviewing. And I think this is going to be very beneficial for us, man.
Well, there was a few more, actually. Mm-hmm. Did you see this list from Brooke Pryor?
When did this drop? Because
I think it's 10 total. Yeah, this was yesterday. This was really recently. So I think it's 10 total. She listed off a list of 7. So 3 of them that you already named, Cowden, Dodds, Wooden, but also, I'm going to bosh this up, John Wojciechowski from the Packers. Morocco Brown. Moats.
Yep.
Dan Morgan, Panthers. Is that the linebacker?
Yeah, he used to play. Because he's 42 now. It's funny, man. I remember actually when I was coming to Pittsburgh in 2014, I was considering going to Carolina because I was looking at Dan, and I'm like, I can get you. It was him and AJ Klein. He was the other guy. I was looking at both of those guys, like, I think I could go down there and ball down there. But it just, like I said, made more sense with Coach T. You want to get back on that outside. But, yeah, man, it's been really good to see Dan progress to where he's at right now, man, in terms of being interviewed for GM roles. He's done a really good job down in Carolina in terms of since he's been, on that side of it. I think that he's really, been a trailblazer in a sense, man. So it's definitely good to see him start getting that type of recognition, man.
And then the last one is John Spytek. So you include those names with the 2 in-house guys we got.
Correct.
Hunt, and then also Louis Riddick. 10 guys overall.
Yeah.
You like to see it. You like to see the due diligence. That's probably one of the things you brought up I agree with most. The due diligence, all these guys are pretty decent candidates too. That's all I like to see. If we do go in-house, which I'm thinking we're going to do more and more after I see some of these Colbert quotes, I'm fine with that. Just as long as we do our due diligence. Louis Riddick, guy from the outside, guy on TV, dudes from other pretty successful organizations over the last however many years that were pretty good in team building. I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah, I agree, man. I feel like anytime you're able to just bring in multiple candidates with multiple qualifications, right? Whether you're talking extremely high level qualifications, you're talking, guys that are more they have they've done the prerequisite stuff, but they really haven't had the title or been in those roles like a Omar Khan or Brandon Hunt. I just think that with this process, you're really going to be able to choose the best candidate, the one that you think fits your organization the most, the guy that you think is going to be the most beneficial, and not just for the short term, a guy that you think is going to be here for the long haul. Because we talked about Kevin Colbert and how long he's been here. He's not a guy that came for 2 or 3 seasons and left. That's not the Pittsburgh way. Pittsburgh is about longevity. It's about, man, we're building this together. So when I think of that, I'm also saying to myself, of these candidates, how sure are we of the bunch that they're going to be fully committed? And I think that whoever the team does decide to hire, I think we will get that guy. And if he's successful, he will be here for a long time, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Absolutely. Now, transition to the Colbert stuff. And also, let's get to the Colbert comments as well. It's about 7:33.
That's one of the reasons I definitely think that we're going to be going in-house. You want me just to rattle off? I got this article. This is from Behind the Steel Curtain. Yeah. Give them some credit here. But they just have top 8 takeaways, and they just have a bunch of the tweets / quotes just listed. You want me just to rattle them off, and then we give our reacts to them?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. The Steelers' approach to free agency. Colbert says the Steelers will begin their meeting evaluating free agents starting on the 22nd, so today, and lasting the rest of the week. No decisions on any free agents, even their own, until those meetings conclude.
Yeah.
Kevin Colbert on Steelers cap situation. I think we can comfortably say that we will have more salary cap room this year than we've had. Yeah. I can't even remember when we've had any excess room, but we're anticipating having more room going into this process. So maybe some restructuring going forward for some of the players we got. And then for the draft. Yeah. Oh, good. No, yeah. If you got something to say that, go for it.
No. You were good. I didn't know if you were finished with all of the comments you were still going on. So you keep going.
Well, all right. Yeah, let me see here. We got the draft. Quarterback situation is probably going to be the one we could discuss. So here's the draft. Colbert listed the 2022 Draft class strengths. Actually, this has to do with the quarterback.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So he says strengths and weaknesses. Wide receiver, tackle, cornerback, and outside linebacker are deep positions. Guard, center, D tackles, not so deep. And then Colbert said the Steelers expect to receive one additional compensatory pick sometime in early March. All right, this is for the quarterback situation, though.
Yeah.
Dwayne Haskins, we're going to tender. We already understand that. Then he goes on the QB competition.
He didn't say we would tender. He said more than likely we should be tender. I think that's what he said, right?
Expects team.
Yes.
This gives Steelers 2 QBs right now. Yeah, pretty much.
We better tender. I mean, we need tender. What we do?
Now we're getting spicy here. Colbert on QB competition. Can we add to that process from the outside? Yes. We can always look at trades. We always look at unrestricted groups, potential cuts down the road. We know we are going to add to that position. And then goes on to say about Mason Rudolph. Hold on, let me pull this up. I'm so disorganized right now.
No, you're good, bro.
Colbert's final season. No, well, they don't have the Mason Rudolph quote.
Hold on, I got
Basically,
you.
He said,
No, I got you.
I got it. I got it off the top of my head. Basically, he said, with Mason Rudolph, we are good with him as the starter as of right now. He was 5-4-1 as a starter. We feel good about that. We think he could start in the league. We're excited about him going forward. That was basically what the quote is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's talking about addressing the quarterback position. So this is interesting. It feels like they're confident in Mason, but at the same time, we're going to add to the room.
Yeah, so essentially the way I kind of interpreted it, man, was this. Like you said, they are confident that if they don't score a bigger name quarterback, whether it's through trade, free agency, or the draft, they still feel that, man, we can still be competitive with Mason. We can still win games with Mason or Haskins. I also thought that he was very telling in the sense of, yes, I like that we potentially have competition in-house, but he was not 100% sold on either candidate either. And that's something that I also like because it just makes it feel like they have an open mind. You know, and that was my biggest thing because I just felt like at times before we would hear Kevin Colbert speak or before we got more information about them really scouting Malik Willis, right, or really being excited about potentially having a mobile quarterback, it just seemed like it was going to be a foregone conclusion that it was Mason Rudolph. And we didn't even know what Haskins was going to get in terms of opportunity. Whereas now, the more we hear Kevin Colbert speak on that quarterback position, he said, don't rule it out about us going to get a quarterback. And that was the part for me earlier on when we were talking. He was like, I just don't think we're going to do it. I'm like, bro, when Kevin Colbert says don't rule it out, legit, do not rule it out.
I don't think it's going to be the big name guy, but I'm liking what you're saying.
Because think about this though, right? But think about this. Think about this. No one thought we would trade first round picks to get a Minka Fitzpatrick. No one thought we would move up in the draft to go get Devin Bush at 10. No one thought that when Joe Hayden became a late cut that we would go out there and pay him. So for me, I say to myself, man, I think that if the situation presents itself and it makes sense, I fully believe that Kevin Colbert will pull a trigger on one of those guys, man. And I'm fine with it. But I don't think that he's just going to go out here and just put all his eggs in that basket. And I think that's the part that makes people a little bit, just uneasy because it's hard to put him in a hole in the sense of, hey, man, he's going veteran quarterback or he's staying in-house or he's definitely drafted. We just don't know because he's done a really good job of keeping all those options on the table and really highlighting the pros and cons to each of those options. When he talks about having that salary cap the way that it is, he speaks of that because he knows to get a big fish quarterback, you're going to need big fish money. And they have that right now. But he also knows that, hey, man, we've been looking at this quarterback class. And he said, even though it's not viewed like how it is in other years, they still are quality players. So it lets me know that he still feels confident that, if one of those guys are available, that, maybe he can get it done with them. But I also like the fact that he said, man, in-house, we got two guys that have started games. Mason has started in the NFL. Dwayne Haskins has started in the NFL. He said, if there's not for anything else, at least the competition between those two guys, like, if you at least have competition for me, I say, man, that is going to ultimately bring out the best in both of those guys, or it should at least, right? So that's why, like I said, for me, I just took it as I don't think that he's closed the door on anything. I just think that he was really trying to hit the main point of we can go free agent quarterback, we can go trade for a guy, we can draft the guy. But even if we don't, we still feel confident that what we have in-house is good enough that we'll be in the conversations. Now, granted, we would have to do some other things around these positions, but I just think that he still has a regular belief in Mason.
Probably the best way to put it, probably the best thing for him in terms of giving the vote of confidence in Mason and also saying we're staying open, because if he just says we're open to it, we're gonna do we might do trade, we might do free agent, then it's like, oh man, you're not even talking up the dudes you have on the roster already.
Well, because
so, I think
think about this though, Deke.
Both a little bit.
I was gonna say, think about this, Deke. How many guys have we actually talked about that right there? Speaking on the quarterback position and not mentioning Mason, we talked about T.J. Watt, we talked about Cam Hayward, we talked about Najee Harris, and it was like none of those three guys said anything wrong. They just talked about it from an outside perspective. Man, if we're gonna bring a guy in or draft a guy. Well, Kevin Colbert just said, okay, I'm just going to make sure I mention our in-house guys first and then say the exact same things that everybody else said. But we can see the reaction to it is way better because it was like, oh, okay, well, at least he does believe in these guys that we have. They're not just here to be here. So that is a positive.
Well, better. Depends on who you ask. Some people aren't thrilled about
That's the truth, right?
I guess maybe I took it more as, hey, we're going to be rolling with Mason this year. We're not going to the situation.
Don't take it like that,
but
man.
You're sounding really hopeful right now.
Because
like you got a feeling.
Well, put it like this, man. Anytime Kevin speaks, typically, it makes sense to me. And I can kind of, just from being around him and working with him, obviously, it's like, man, I could just see how his mind works in a sense, and just hearing his comments, and especially, how he was very critical in his words about Mason. Not saying that, hey, we're crowning him as the starter, but we're simply saying that, hey, we think that he could still help us. If it started today, he could be our guy. And also, I like the fact that he included, this is ultimately Coach Tomlin's decision. Because, hey, if we just feel like Kevin Colbert is anointing Mason Rudolph without a competition or without any other, him having to earn it, we wouldn't like that. But knowing that, hey, he's open to Coach Tomlin making this decision, Coach Tomlin deciding who or which quarterback he wants. I just think for me, it just makes it better. It just makes it feel like it's an open book and like there is a legitimacy to it being an open competition for whoever we bring in versus it being a foregone conclusion. And that's my biggest thing when you're talking about not having the legitimate proven franchise quarterback or proven QB1. I just want true competition, not what we saw last year where it was, Mason, you're getting all the real opportunities. Haskins, hey, man, we're going to throw you out there with the 2s and 3s and hope for the best. I don't want that. I want to see legit competition. I want Haskins to get those same opportunities that Mason's going to get in practice and in some of these preseason games so we can truly know who the heck we got. Unless we go the route of, like we said, hiring marquee guys for agency trade or even drafting a guy.
Yeah. Watch Mason just comes out and balls out and just proves everyone wrong.
But think about this.
I can see that being a
though.
scenario.
Hey, Deke, if he does that, is that a pro or is that a con?
That's a pro. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. It's just, I don't think anyone really has that much faith in him right now.
Right, and I'll say this, man.
Even
honestly,
the people that believe in him, that you can't be thinking he's going to be the franchise guy for the next 10 years, right?
The guys that believe in him have cautious optimism because you say to yourself, can a guy develop? Sure, you believe everybody can develop, but the question is how far they develop and how fast are they developing? Deke, I could develop you into an NFL linebacker. It might take you 20 years, though, from where we're at today. So it's like, man, they don't have 20 years to wait, right? So can Mason develop into QB1 or to a starter within the next couple of months? Well, that's the question that we're all trying to figure out. But if they think that he can, or if they feel that he has the prerequisites for that, then yeah, you are optimistic about it. You're excited about it, but you're cautious because you know that it's going to take work. It's going to take consistency. And that's the things that we really haven't seen in Mason's game is the consistency part. Now, since his rookie season, we've seen every time that he's come out there, he's continued to improve. He's continued to do some things that just look better. And we've highlighted those things. But at the same time, those are small sample sizes. Those are one-off games that we're talking about, not 4 or 5 weeks at a time or a full 17 game season plus postseason. We haven't seen that just yet.
Yeah. Anything else on Mason QB stuff? Because we got some more in terms of Kevin Colbert's role and a couple individual players.
Yeah, let's do that then, man.
I'll talk about. All right.
Let's do that, basically.
Because 44.
And I probably got like,
right?
I'm about to say, as long as we're off here about like 52-ish, we should be good. Because then I got to start my I got to start my meetings. I got check-ins.
Okay. I'll just go quick on two of the players, and then we'll finish off with the Colbert like in his final season / rule. But we got Colbert on Tuitt's availability. Been in contact with Stephon. Open to continuing to help him continue to evaluate what position and his availability is to us. Not saying too much.
No, I thought he said a lot right there, actually.
You think? Good way or bad way?
I'll say in a good way, but also in a just real way. Good way in the sense that there at least is communication. Because I do feel at times last year that wasn't always what it needed to be. And I just think that, man, when everybody's able to be on the same page, now you're able to formulate a plan, right? You're able to create this idea of, hey, what does your availability look like to it? What does your overall desire look like right now? Like, without having those conversations, you don't know those things. But now having those conversations, and especially the timing of it, right? Ahead of free agency.
That's what we need.
You got an
That's
idea.
What we're talking about. Yeah.
We need to know this. So for me, I love the fact that communication window is open now, that they're talking, because I want to know, what his desire is. If he's saying to Kevin Colbert, yo, I still love football with all my heart, and I cannot wait to get back out there. I'm healthy. I'm ready to go emotionally, physically. Well, man, I don't need to go shop, because I know what Tuitt can do when he's healthy and he's right and his mind is in the right place. But if he tells Kevin Colbert, hey, man, look, bro, my heart is still not in this thing, man. Like, between my knee, my brother, like, I don't have a desire to play anymore. Well, hey, at least we know that, and now we can take the necessary measures from his contract perspective, and then also in terms of just replenishing the D-line, because now you would have to upgrade it, right? Now that becomes a little bit more of a pressing need going forward, but now you would know so that you can make a plan and you can attack that. So for me, man, that's kind of where I'm at with Tuitt, and in this situation is just the communication back and forth is great, but eventually, we're going to get a decision on that scenario probably really soon, man, in terms of right before free agency starts, because they're going to need to know.
Yeah, and that's better than playing hardball and not knowing.
Yeah, absolutely, man, because they could easily take that approach.
Could try to trade you, cut them, whatever it is, but then Tuitt's like, I don't want to do that. I still want my money. How does that affect our cap hit with dead cap? Who knows? But at least some type of conversation, whether we trade Tuitt, whether Tuitt's retiring. We need something, because we need to benefit this in some way. Either Tuitt, you're playing, or if we trade you, we need to open up cap space. Same thing with you retiring.
And I would also say, in the sense of this, man, I also want it to happen sooner rather than later. And why I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later is because you don't want to pigeonhole yourself to you can only replace Tuitt through the draft. Think about if you wait and allow free agency to start and all the marquee names in terms of interior D linemen to be gone. Now you're stuck bargain shopping or having to go and get somebody early in the draft that you might not necessarily love or you might not necessarily think fits that position. Because Jordan Davis, we like him a lot. Travis Jones, we like him a lot, but they are not what Tuitt does. They're more, nose tackles. So once again, now we're forcing ourselves to have to pick for a position versus best player available in a sense. And I just don't like that. Whereas if you understand before free agency, hey, Tuitt is not coming back, but we have this type of money. Well, now we can say to ourselves, you know what? Maybe we need to call up and get this guy. Maybe we need to go sign this, higher end pedigree free agent who we know can come in here and get the job done. Because now you have a plan. Now you know that, and the information is on the table, and then all the other dominoes can fall into place afterwards. But I do think, man, that they're going to have to make that decision very soon, man.
100%. All right, I'll skip. Well, the one was on Devin Bush.
Go for it, man. Go for it. What you got?
He says, I think Devin Bush will be a better player. Mentioned the ACL recovery impacting him in 2021. And then also that the Steelers have not decided yet if they're going to pick up Bush's fifth-year option.
Yeah.
So, kind of stuff we know. But he just thinks maybe it's more on the ACL, whereas we're talking about not as much on that.
But I'll also say,
in terms of film study.
But I will also say this, Kevin Colbert, it makes sense to always err on the side of the ACL because what I'm talking about, it's as a former player, it's not as big of an indictment. It's more so just like, I'm speaking from experience. I know what this is. Right. But for Kevin Colbert, if he says those things, it's like, well, you're his boss. Like, what do you mean? Like, what are you doing if that's not the case and you're allowing that?
We feel like Devin just didn't care about football last year.
Like, he can't say that, bro. That looks terrible to him. So that's why for me, I'm like, when I watch the tape, I don't feel like it's that. I feel like it's this. But the coaches can't say that. The general manager can't say that. The owner can't say that, because that would be a huge indictment, not just on Devin, but on them, because they will be allowing it. So that's why I'm just like, I don't put too much stock into that. I just think that it's certain things you have to say in those positions, and that's ultimately what he was doing right there, man.
Okay, last one. Yeah. This is on like his rule. Mm-hmm. This one's good. This one makes me think we are going to be hiring in-house, whether it's Hunt or Con. But he goes,
oh, yeah, I know you're talking about, yeah.
Told Coach Tomlin last May and Art Rooney that this would be his final season as GM. So this was already known going forward heading into 2021. But he says it was time from a personal standpoint. It was time from a professional standpoint. But then when asked about retiring, he says he's not going to use the word retirement, nor does he want to, because I may or may not have a role with the team. However, he is expected to remain in a reduced role when his contract expires. So if he's going to be sticking around a little bit in some type of role,
but
I highly doubt some outside GM's just going to be cool with that.
But no, see, so you also, in those comments, he also said this. He said, when he was talking about personally think it's time, but he says professionally, because when you're here for this long, sometimes you need new ideas. Sometimes you need outside influence. And that was the other reason why he talked about potentially that job could be, he said it could be someone outside, but he said it could be an in-house promotion, but he's like, you might have a better candidate promoting from outside. So I don't necessarily think that he is all the way, hinting towards hiring in-house, but I do like the fact that he's going to be on in some capacity. But I just think that it's more so depending on which GM you bring in, and of those candidates, none of them have already been proven GMs. So it's hard to tell a guy that has already done this for as long as he's done the track record that he's had, hey, even though I'm replacing you, I don't want any help from you. And I've never been a GM before either. It's like, that does it. You know what I mean? Like, all those guys we've named, none of those guys have been GMs before. So it's like, man, you're going to still want a guy around that can help you, that is already proven as well. No different if you went to New England as a coach. Yeah, I'm sure I don't want to do everything that Belichick has done, but I would still want to hear some of his concepts and ideas, because it's like, no, you've been successful. Your track record speaks for itself. So I think that could be a similar vein with some of these candidates.
You view it only as positive then.
Yeah,
you view
I really do.
As how we talked about in the past. If we hired someone, Colbert stays on for the draft and whatnot, he's going to share some ideas and then he's going to bounce. But just in this case, Colbert might be around for the next 2 or 3 years.
Right.
Just kind of waiting in the wings, though. It's just not going to be the draft.
Right. So when I think of that, I'm just like, I don't necessarily have a major issue with that,
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. But like I said, as long as it's still due diligence, though, right? That's at the end of it, it's still a ton of due diligence with this group, and that's the big part for me where I hang my hat and I say, you know what, I feel good about that, man.
I'm just wondering though.
Yeah.
The new GM somehow puts this thing into a tailspin. I would think Colbert's going to step in, right? You know what I mean? But I guess you would want Colbert to step in at that point.
But in a sense, I don't know if I would, though.
In the back of the scene.
But in the sense, I don't know if I necessarily would want him to step in, because I want to see, how does this GM handle adversity? We've seen Kevin Colbert have to handle adversity. We've seen Kevin Colbert have to handle adversity, whether you're talking personnel, whether you're talking team success. Like, I want to see, can a GM get out of a hole? I want to see, if the team is looking rough, can he ultimately bring in a player? I mean, think about this, man. When Big Ben went down in 2019, we know what the feeling was. We know what the vibe was. And what did Kevin Colbert do? He said, don't worry, I got us. I want to know, can a new GM do that when it gets rough? If you lose a player, if you're starting out 0-4 in the season and everybody's looking at you like, bro, man, I don't know if y'all team still got it. We should fire this guy, do this. I want to know, can you overcome that? So I'm not even so gung-ho about Kevin Colbert just jumping right back in. I want him to really sit back. Like, yo, if you're sitting back as a consultant, just do that. Like, don't be hopping in that thing being too handsy. No. I want to see what these guys can really do, man.
I'm just wondering how easy that would be, or actually more how hard that would be, having success like that. Do you think for him, I mean, he brought up from a personal standpoint, professional standpoint, I would assume then he just wants to be taking the back seat. Then, like, he doesn't want to jump back into it. Like, he's already been to war. He's already done all the battle.
Yeah, like sometimes, man, you want to just be at peace. Sometimes you're tired of always being the leader. You're tired of being the captain. So
you know, my next question is then why even just stick around at all then?
Because you love the game. You never stop loving it. You never stop being passionate about it. You're just saying that, man, I don't want it to be my main focus. Because there's a difference between a consultant role versus being the GM. I mean, that's just the nature of it, right? Both of them are impactful, but one has a lot more responsibility than the other. So if you're Kevin, it's like, man, I've done this role for how long? This is what I want to do now. I'm involved. I'm still impactful, but I'm not doing it full time. Kind of like me with this, right? It's like, man, I still love football, but I don't want to coach. I don't want to be a GM. I don't want to be, in that vein, but hey, man, I like to watch film. I like to talk about it. So it's like you're still around it, but you're not directly having to do the same level of, responsibilities and stuff like that. So that's why for me, when I think of Kevin, I think of him in that same stint. So yeah.
You want to go over these super chats real quick before we?
Man. Yeah, let's hurry up and do that because I got about a couple minutes. Before I got to start my day.
Upper room. That's the last one I'm on. I don't know.
That's perfect. That's good. That's good because he said his card expired and he lost his membership streak. Oh no, Rich. Well, baby, we appreciate you returning to the good crew and glad the card situation is all well and dandy. So with that being said, Rich, we'll go to the upper room. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, baby. Love it, love it, love it. And as a whole, though, Rich, man,
lose it at Heinz Field and have someone. Put $130 charge at the bar on it.
This is true. This is very true. But what I was going to say, though, in terms of, Rich, man, sticking with that up room, man, we really appreciate you, though, because it does help with, like I said, the development of the show, man, continuing to be able to just pour more into this thing, man. So any of the upper room members that are out there, man, we salute you, baby, as always. And we got love for y'all lower room members as well. All of y'all. We got love. Big love. But yeah, man, with that being said, dude, I gotta get ready to roll, bro. So yeah, man, I hope everybody enjoyed us on this new morning time that we have to, do for a little while, especially while I'm out here becoming one with myself. But either way, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. And until next time, baby.
Peace.